Snoop Dogg's Revolution, a deep dive into justice and defying racism. In the vibrant soul of Long Beach, California, Calvin Broadus, known worldwide as Snoop Dogg, steps into the Coastal Crown, a dazzling five-star hotel he secretly owns. A global icon, turned entrepreneur, Snoop arrives not as a celebrity, but as an everyman, clad in a simple tracksuit, aiming to expose the hotel's inner workings. What he encounters is a stark confrontation with Prejudice. Marcus Reed, the imperious manager, and his acquiescent staff judge Snoop by his casual attire and black skin, ejecting him from the lobby with biting scorn. Undeterred, Snoop unveils his true identity as the hotel's owner, firing Marcus on the spot and pledging to uproot the entrenched culture of exclusion. This isn't merely a power shift, it's a seismic stand against racism. A mission to transform the Coastal Crown into a symbol of inclusivity in Snoop's beloved hometown. As he navigates the aftermath, Snoop grapples with the hotel's toxic legacy, the complicity of its staff and guests, and the broader societal biases that fuel such injustice, forging a legacy that ripples far beyond Long Beach's shores. If this story resonates with you, please smash that like button, follow for more, and drop a comment sharing the moment that hit you hardest. When did it truly sink in? Now, let's immerse ourselves in the journey. In the sun-drenched pulse of Long Beach, California, a man who'd become a global legend. Calvin Broadus, better known as Snoop Dogg, approached the Coastal Crown, a five-star hotel that towered over the Pacific like a beacon of ambition. At 53, Snoop was a tapestry of triumphs. A rapper who'd redefined hip-hop, an actor who'd lit up screens, a philanthropist who'd poured his heart into communities, and a businessman whose empire spanned music, media, cannabis, and now real estate. Born in Long Beach's hardscrabble projects, he'd grown up dodging systemic traps, poverty, profiling, the constant hum of "you're not enough." Each barrier had honed him, turning a lanky kid with a dream into a visionary who moved with purpose, his laid-back drawl a velvet glove over an iron will. Today, he wasn't the Snoop of red carpets or boardrooms. He was just Calvin, in a faded gray tracksuit, scuffed sneakers, and a tilted Dodgers cap, a backpack slung loosely over one shoulder, blending into the city's rhythm like a ghost from its past. But Snoop was no ordinary man, and the Coastal Crown was about to feel the weight of his truth. The hotel was a marvel, its glass spires catching the ocean's shimmer, its lobby a shrine to excess marble floors that gleamed like mirrors, velvet drapes cascading like waterfalls, chandeliers dripping crystals that fractured light into rainbows. The air was thick with privilege, notes of oud perfume, the clink of champagne flutes, the rustle of silk and cashmere. Guests moved with the arrogance of belonging tech moguls sealing deals, influencers curating their next post, heiresses trailing entourages. Snoop, with his street-born swagger and unassuming vibe, was a rupture in their world. He strolled toward the reception desk, his eyes sweeping the opulence, a faint smile tugging at his lips, as if he knew a secret they didn't. But before he could open his mouth, a voice cut through the lobby's hum like a whip. "Sir, the service entrance is around the side." It was Marcus Reed, the hotel manager, a lean man in a bespoke suit, his smile as sharp as a shard of glass. Marcus was the Coastal Crown's enforcer, a gatekeeper who wielded his authority with a zeal that verged on malice. He thrived on control, his eyes trained to spot outsiders in a heartbeat, and to him, Snoop was an aberration, his tracksuit too cheap, his posture too easy, his blackness a silent affront to the hotel's manicured order. Snoop tilted his head, his grin widening just a fraction, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "Yo, hold up, homie. I ain't looking for no service entrance. I'm here to check in, you dig?" Marcus's smile tightened, his gaze raking Snoop's outfit with undisguised contempt. "Check in," he said, his voice loud enough to ripple across the lobby, pulling stares like moths to a flame. "This is a five-star establishment, not some roadside motel. There's obviously been a mix-up." His laugh was harsh, a signal for others to join in his dismissal. A hedge fund bro in a corner smirked, muttering to his buddy, "Guy's glott'll be kidding." A woman in a Dior gown clutched her pearl-embellished bag, her eyes darting away. Emily, the receptionist, a young woman with a severe bun and anxious hands, shifted uncomfortably, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, but she said nothing, pinned by Marcus's shadow. Snoop's grin faded, but his voice stayed cool, measured. Ain't no mix-up, man. I got business here. Name's Calvin Broadus. Marcus didn't flinch, his face a mask of certainty. Broadus? Never heard it. Look, we have standards, and you're not meeting them. Security! He snapped his fingers, and two guards in crisp black uniforms materialized, their faces blank, but their posture menacing. The lobby grew still, the murmur of wealth pausing glasses frozen mid-sip, heads turning. A startup CEO whispered, "He must be lost." An older couple in matching linen suits exchanged uneasy glances but stayed mute. Emily's lips parted, a flicker of protest in her eyes, but fear stitched her mouth shut. Snoop tried again, his tone firm but calm, a thread of steel beneath the velvet. "You're moving too fast, man. Judging me off my looks a bad call. I'm telling you, I belong here. Check your system. Do your job." Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss, meant for Snoop, but loud enough for the crowd. "Let's be crystal clear. People like you don't walk into places like this. Take your bag and your excuses somewhere else, or I'll have you removed permanently." The words "people like you" landed like a blade, their meaning raw, unfiltered. It wasn't just Snoop's tracksuit or backpack, it was his skin, his presence, the sheer gall of a black man daring to claim space in Marcus's curated empire. The guards closed in, their hands hovering, ready to act. Snoop raised his palms slightly, not in defeat but in restraint, his eyes locking with Marcus's for a moment that burned with unspoken history. "Eight. I see how you playing it," he said, his voice low, steady, carrying a weight that lingered. Then, without another word, he turned toward the revolving glass doors, the guards trailing him like hounds. The lobby watched, some with smug satisfaction, others with a flicker of unease, but none with the courage to intervene. Emily bit her lip, her hands trembling, a pulse of shame in her chest, but she stayed rooted, her silence a choice. As Snoop stepped into the Long Beach sunlight, the weight of those stairs pressed against him, a familiar scar from a lifetime of being sized up, dismissed, erased. But Snoop wasn't just any man, and this wasn't just any hotel. The Coastal Crown was his, bought in a clandestine deal he'd kept under wraps to avoid the glare of fame. He'd acquired it to leave a mark on Long Beach, his birthplace, to transform a bastion of elitism into a sanctuary where anyone rich or broke, black or white, dreamer or doer could walk tall. Whispers had reached him about the hotel's underbelly, a manager who ruled with an iron fist, staff who enforced unwritten laws about fit, guests turned away for looking wrong, too brown, too poor, too different. So Snoop came as a shadow, no entourage, no flash, just a man in a tracksuit testing the tide. And Marcus had just crashed against the rocks of his own prejudice. Outside, under the shade of a palm tree, Snoop leaned against a low concrete wall, the ocean's salt breeze weaving through the city's hum, skateboards clacking, vendors calling, music pulsing from a distant car. Long Beach was in his bones, its grit and glory the backdrop of his life. He pulled out his phone and dialed Carla, his lawyer, a fierce woman who'd been with him since his first $1 million deal. She answered on the first ring, her voice all business. "How'd it go, Calvin?" "Worse than we figured," Snoop said, his tone low but resolute, a fire simmering beneath. "Dude's out here running my hotel like it's his personal fiefdom, kicking folks out because they don't match his blueprint. Hit me with people like you, straight up racist vibes. It's not just him, it's the whole setup. Time to tear it down and build it right." "We're locked and loaded," Carla replied, her voice crisp with purpose. "Ownership papers are prepped, teams on standby. You want to lead the charge yourself?" "You know I do," Snoop said, a spark flaring in his words. "This Long Beach, my roots, my heart. I was about to show Elm how we roll in the dog pound." He hung up, his eyes fixed on the hotel's gleaming facade. It was a masterpiece, 20 floors of glass and steel, a crown jewel for his city, but inside, it was diseased, poisoned by a culture that thrived on exclusion, Marcus its loudest prophet. Snoop knew racism's sting, cops tailing him at 15 for looking suspicious, record execs sneering at his early demos, strangers crossing streets to avoid him. Each slight had carved him, turning pain into power, doubt into drive. The Coastal Crown was his latest canvas, a chance to paint a new vision, one where respect trumped prejudice, where every soul had a seat. Inside, Marcus strutted through the lobby like a monarch, his suit pristine, his smile a calculated mask. He snapped at a bellhop for a speck on a luggage cart, schmoozed a wealthy couple with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes, posed for a selfie with an influencer, his polish as slick as the marble floor. Leaning over the reception desk, he muttered to Emily, "That guy earlier? Thinking he could just stroll in here? This place would be a free-for-all if we let people like that stay." His words were casual, but their venom made Emily wince, her nod mechanical, her eyes flicking to the doors where Snoop had been escorted out, a knot of guilt tightening in her gut. The staff murmured in corners, their voices low, cautious. Javier, a dishwasher who'd watched from the lobby's edge, shook his head, his hands still damp from the sink. "That was straight up wrong, man." Dude was chill, didn't raise his voice, and Marcus just shut him down. Rosa, a black housekeeper in her 60s, nodded, her face etched with decades of seeing too much. "That's Marcus's game. If you're not rich, not white, you're nothing. I've watched him turn away black families, Latino couples, saying we're booked when we've got floors empty. Been here 12 years, and it's always the same smile, nod, take it." Her voice carried the weight of countless slights guests who looked through her, Marcus docking her pay for attitude when she dared to hum while cleaning. Rosa's words were a window into the Coastal Crown's rot, a culture where racism wasn't just tolerated, but woven into the fabric dressed up as standards, cloaked in professionalism. Marcus was the architect, but the system thrived because others upheld it. Staff who challenged him risked their livelihoods, so most stayed silent, their complicity a quiet betrayal. Guests played their part, sipping cocktails while undesirables were ushered out, their privilege a shield against conscience. It was a machine of exclusion, oiled by fear and apathy, running smoothly until Snoop walked through the doors. His return was a calculated storm, a slow burn of intent. He crossed Ocean Boulevard, his steps deliberate, his vibe calm but charged, like the air before thunder. Behind him were Carla, her leather briefcase heavy with proof. David, his business manager, clutching a tablet loaded with contracts. Malik, his security lead, whose quiet strength was a presence all its own. Lena, his community liaison, a Long Beach native who'd grown up blocks from Snoop and carried the city's dreams in her bones. And Jamal, his operations strategist, whose sharp mind had mapped every detail of this moment. A black SUV purred to a stop behind them, and two assistants stepped out, their faces set, ready to execute. The doorman, sensing a shift in the wind, held the revolving doors open, his eyes flickering with curiosity, maybe fear. As Snoop entered, the lobby froze, time itself seeming to pause. The pianist's fingers faltered, a chord dying midair. Conversations hushed, glasses clinked to a stop, heads turned. Marcus, charming a group of investors on the mezzanine, caught sight of Snoop and his face twisted shock, then fury, his control slipping like sand. "What the hell is he doing back here?" he bellowed, charging down the spiral staircase, his polish cracking into shards. "Security! I told you to keep him out now!" The guards moved, but Snoop raised a hand, his voice slicing through the chaos with effortless command. "Everybody chill. Ain't no need for all that drama." He locked eyes with Marcus, his gaze steady, unyielding, carrying the weight of a lifetime's battles. "You talk a big game, man, but you don't know who you're messing with. I'm Calvin Broadus Snoop Dogg, and this hotel, it's mine." A gasp tore through the room, sharp and collective, like air rushing into a vacuum. Emily's jaw dropped, her hands frozen on the counter. The guards hesitated, stepping back, their instincts scrambled. Marcus laughed, but it was a brittle, desperate sound, cracking under pressure. "Yours? That's absurd. You're bluffing." "This hotel belongs to." Carla stepped forward, her voice cutting like a diamond. "Mr. Broadus acquired the Coastal Crown in a private transaction last month. These are the ownership documents, fully executed, notarized, and binding." She opened her briefcase and held up a stack of papers, each one a nail in Marcus's coffin, stamped with seals that gleamed under the chandelier light. "He is the sole proprietor, effective immediately." Marcus's face drained of color, his bravado collapsing like a house of cards. "This... I would have known," he stammered, his voice shaking, his eyes darting for an escape that wasn't there. "You can't!" Snoop shook his head, stepping closer, his presence filling the room like a tide. "You've been running my spot like it's your kingdom, deciding who's in, who's out, like you got the final say. I came in here like a regular dude, no fame, no flash, no nothing to see what's real. And you showed me exactly what's wrong. You saw my tracksuit, my skin, and decided people like me don't belong. That ain't just bad service, man. That's you thinking you're above folks who look like me, who come from where I come from, who fight to be seen. He turned to the crowd staff, guests, onlookers, his voice rising, not with anger, but with a clarity that cut deeper. This is Long Beach, my home, where I learned to keep it 100. I grew up on these streets, dodging bullets and bias, building dreams from dirt. I bought this place to make it a vibe for everybody rich, poor, black, white, brown, don't matter. But you, Marcus, you out here building walls, judging people by their cover, not their story. You threw me out because I didn't fit your picture of class. You didn't just disrespect me, you disrespected every soul who's ever been told they ain't enough because of how they look. The lobby was silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy. Guests shifted, some uncomfortable, others transfixed. Staff stared, their faces a mix of shame, fear, hope. Snoop's voice softened, but its power grew. I know what it's like to walk in a room and feel eyes on you, judging you before you speak. I know what it's like to be told you don't belong, not in a store, not in a school, not in a dream. I bought this hotel to change that, to open doors, not slam Elm. But what I found here is a place that's sick, run by folks who think respect's optional. That stops today. Marcus opened his mouth, but Snoop cut him off, his tone final, unyielding. You fired, man. Done. Pack your stuff and go. And anybody who thinks it's cool to treat people like they're less human, less worthy because of their skin, their clothes, their vibe, y'all can follow him out the door. We rebuilding this place from the ground up, and it's going to be for everybody. The lobby erupted, whispers swelling to a roar, gasps mingling with murmurs of disbelief, a spark of possibility igniting. Marcus's face contorted, fury and desperation warring in his eyes. You can't do this, he shouted, his voice cracking. I've built this hotel's reputation. I've kept it elite, exclusive. You'll ruin it, letting just anyone in. His words were a confession, raw with the prejudice that had fueled this moment, and they sealed his downfall. Snoop crossed his arms, unmoved, his calm a stark contrast to Marcus's unraveling. Reputation? You built a lie, man, a shiny cage where only some folks get to breathe. You didn't keep it elite, you kept it small, scared, stuck. This hotel's about to be a beacon, but it ain't gonna shine with you in it. Security, now answering to Malik's nod, moved in, their hands firm but calm. Marcus resisted, shouting curses, pleading for a chance, but his voice faded as they escorted him through the revolving doors, his silhouette shrinking against the glass. The staff watched, some stunned into silence, others wrestling with their own guilt, their roles in the hotel's culture laid bare. Guests, too, were caught, some recording on phones, others frozen, their complicity in the silence exposed. Snoop turned to the staff, his voice steady but warm, a leader stepping into the void. Y'all got a choice right now. Stay and help me make this place what it's meant to be, a home for all, no exceptions, no gatekeepers, or walk out with him. I ain't here to play favorites or point fingers. I'm here to build something real, something that makes Long Beach proud. Who's with me? Most stayed, their faces a tapestry of emotions, relief, regret, resolve. Emily stepped forward, her voice trembling, her eyes wet. Mr. Broadus, I'm so sorry. I saw what he did, and I didn't say anything. I was scared, but that's no excuse. I want to stay, to do better. Snoop nodded, his expression softening, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. It's all good, sis. Takes heart to own that. We all got work to do, including me. Just don't let fear win next time, aight? We in this together. As Marcus's absence settled, the lobby hummed with a new energy, fragile but alive. Guests pulled out phones, recording, posting, tweeting, #Snoop owns it, no room for racism. The internet caught fire. Snoop Dogg takes over Long Beach Hotel, ousts racist manager. Videos spread Marcus's tirade, Snoop's unshakable calm, the documents flashing like truth made tangible. But this wasn't just a viral hit. It was a reckoning, a mirror held up to a world that too often judges by skin, not substance. Snoop knew racism's bite, its many faces. As a kid, he'd been stopped by cops for fitting a description, trailed in stores for looking suspicious, told his dreams were too big for his zip code. As a star, he'd faced boardrooms that doubted his intellect, crowds that feared his presence, systems that tried to box him in. Each wound had shaped him, teaching him to turn pain into purpose, to build bridges where others saw walls. The coastal crown was his boldest bridge, yet a chance to create a space where no one felt the sting of, "you don't belong." But what he'd found was a culture steeped in exclusion. Marcus, its loudest voice; the staff, its reluctant enablers; the guests, its silent beneficiaries. That silence cut deeper than Marcus's words. Snoop thought of the guests who'd smirked, whispering as he was escorted out, the hedge fund bro, the Dior lady, the couple in linen. He thought of the staff who'd watched, their eyes down, their voices locked away, Emily's hesitation, the bellhop's stillness. He thought of the system that let Marcus reign, unchecked, his prejudice, a policy no one dared name. Racism wasn't just the loud slurs or barred doors, it was the quiet moments, the choices to stay comfortable, to let injustice slide. It was the guest who said nothing, the employee who obeyed, the world that looked away. Snoop couldn't unmake it all, but he could unmake this corner, this hotel, this day. The hours that followed were a whirlwind of action. Snoop and his team, Carla, David, Malik, Lena, Jamal, set up in the hotel's conference room, a sleek space Marcus had once used to woo investors. They met every employee, from housekeepers to chefs, porters to concierge, creating a space for raw, unfiltered truth. Rosa, the housekeeper, spoke first, her voice steady despite years of being ignored. "Guests look through me unless they need something. Marcus used to dock my pay for attitude, meaning I smiled too big or talked too loud. Been here 12 years, and I've seen folks like me, black, brown, working class, treated like we're less, every day." Javier, the dishwasher, added his piece, his hands fidgeting. "I've seen Marcus turn away guests, black families, Latino couples, even Asian tourists, saying we're full when I know we've got rooms. He'd laugh about it later like it was a game. I wanted to say something, but I got kids, bills, didn't feel like I had a choice." His voice cracked, guilt and relief warring within. Lena, the liaison, took notes. Her own memories of Long Beach's divides, redlined neighborhoods, underfunded schools, fueling her focus. "This ain't just about Marcus," she said, her voice firm. "It's about a culture that lets people like him thrive. We glottal rebuild trust, not just with staff, but with the community. Long Beach deserves a hotel that feels like home, not a gate." Snoop listened, his face a mix of resolve and empathy, nodding as each story landed. "Y'all are the heart of this place," he said, his voice grounding the room. "I ain't here to pretend I got all the answers, but I know we can't build nothing real without hearing you, without facing the truth. This hotel's gonna be a mirror of Long Beach, diverse, tough, beautiful, but we gotta start by owning what's broken." He didn't stop at words. Snoop brought in trainers, experts in bias, equity, cultural fluency to work with the staff, unpacking the subtle ways prejudice creeps in. The snap judgment of a guest's worth, the instinct to fear difference, the silence that lets harm fester. He hired local artists, black, Latino, Asian, white, to transform the lobby, replacing sterile decor with murals that told Long Beach's story. Surfers carving waves, poets spitting truth, kids dreaming under palm trees. The ballroom, once reserved for galas, became a community hub, youth rap battles, elder dance nights, forums on justice, free to all. And he set a policy, carved in stone, no guest judged by appearance, race, or status. The Coastal Crown would be a sanctuary, not a stronghold. But Snoop's vision stretched beyond the hotel's walls. He saw the Coastal Crown as a spark, a model for what Long Beach and maybe the world could be. He launched the Broadus Unity Fund, tied to the hotel's profits, pouring money into scholarships for local youth, especially those from marginalized corners like the ones he'd grown up in. He partnered with activists, inviting them to speak in the hotel's new lecture series, turning suites into stages for truth talks on redlining, policing, the myths of meritocracy. He mentored staff like Javier, who enrolled in management training, and Rosa, who began leading workshops, her decades of wisdom now a guiding light. Emily, humbled by her silence, became an advocate, auditing guest interactions to ensure fairness, checking her own biases daily. Days turned to weeks, and the Coastal Crown's transformation became a beacon. Snoop hosted its first community night, the ballroom alive with Long Beach's pulse teens freestyling to beats, elders swaying to Motown, families sharing plates of tamales and jerk chicken. A mural was unveiled, Snoop's face alongside locals, a fisherman, a teacher, a skateboarder linked by hands, a nod to unity. The crowd roared, not for fame, but for hope, for a place that felt like theirs. Outside, Long Beach sparkled, its flaws and promise intertwined, a city wrestling with its past but reaching for more. The story went global. CNN ran segments. X-posts hit billions of views. Op-eds called Snoop's move a blueprint for change. Locals flooded the hotel's pages with their own tales of being profiled, sidelined, erased, and of daring to fight back. But Snoop didn't chase the spotlight. He chased impact. He thought of his mother, who'd taught him to stand tall through hate, of his younger self, who'd rhymed his pain into power, of every soul told they didn't belong in a hotel, a classroom, a country, a dream. This was for them. One evening, Snoop stood on the rooftop, the Pacific stretching endless under a starlit sky. The coastal crown glowed below, its new murals catching the moonlight, its doors open to all. He thought of Marcus, now a footnote, his prejudice a warning. He thought of the guests who'd stayed silent, their faces a challenge to do better. He thought of Long Beach's kids, watching, learning what's possible when truth leads. Racism's roots ran deep centuries of soil, watered by silence, but Snoop had planted a seed, tended it with grit and love. It wasn't the end, but it was a hell of a start. He leaned against the railing, a quiet smile breaking through. The coastal crown was his, not just in name but in spirit, a testament to respect over fear, community over control. The fight was long, the scars real, but in this corner of his city, the vibe was right. And Snoop Dogg, the kid from the projects who'd become a king, was just getting started.